Sofa King Entertaining is proud to present Martha and Jeff, the story of a chicken and a dog. Written and read to you by Ali Tabibnejad. There once was a dog and a chicken. Their names were Jeff and Martha, and they were neighbors. At night, they would get together, sing and dance, drink hot chocolate, and talk. They were happy, the chicken and the dog, because they had everything they wanted: friendship, a warm and cozy home, good food, and good things to do. The chicken would cluck about, find worms, seeds, and flowers. She would put them in a little grocery bag, take them home, and make soup. The dog would taunt cats, smell things, and fetch hot chocolate to drink later in the day with the chicken. The chicken and the dog lived happily until one night, as the chicken and the dog were chatting away, drinking hot chocolate, that the chicken felt a strange pain in her stomach. Although he enjoyed the chicken's company, Jeff suggested that Martha go to bed early and rest. He even tucked her in. Jeff decided to go home and play with his new phone. It wasn't long after Jeff had fallen asleep with his paws still on his phone that he woke up to Martha's terrible cries. He rushed to her. She was still in bed and was in horrible pain. Jeff became frantic and helpless. He ran from one side of the room to the other. He took her some of her leftover soup, some hot chocolate, and even asked if she wanted to play with his phone. But she was still in dreadful pain until suddenly she stopped. Jeff was relieved. He went to hug the chicken, but she pecked at him. This was so unlike Martha. Jeff was upset that Martha would treat him this way, and he left with his chin held way up high in the air. Martha was sad that she had upset her friend, but she felt as though she had no choice. The night before, she had had the most vivid dream. In her dream, her late mother appeared and told her that tomorrow she would be in a lot of pain, but that if she endured the pain, she would receive a miraculous reward. A gift that she had to protect at all costs, a gift that all life depended on. The gift had appeared. It was right there under her butt. Martha looked around and got up very carefully to look at it. It was the cleanest, smoothest, roundest, prettiest thing she had ever seen. She fluffed up her feathers and sat right back on it so that no one would ever be able to steal it. She was still sad, though, that she had upset her good friend Jeff. Jeff spent the next day taunting cats and smelling things. But instead of getting hot chocolate, he stayed home and played with his phone. Fetching hot chocolate reminded him of Martha, and he was still very mad at her. Later that night, about the time he would play with Martha, a sadness came over him. He was tired of playing with his phone, and he was craving hot chocolate. He finally broke down, went out and fetched way more hot chocolate than usual, just to spite Martha. Someday he would tell her how much hot chocolate he had had without her. But drinking all that hot chocolate made the poor dog very, very sick. He had to go to the doctor. The doctor suggested that Jeff write about his feelings in a journal, rather than drinking so much hot chocolate. Every night he would write in his journal, "Martha, I am mad at you for being mean to me. Martha, I am mad at you for being mean to me. Martha, I am mad at you for being mean to me," and so on, for at least 100 times. In the meantime, Martha had pretty much not done anything interesting or worth talking about. She just sat there, day and night, protecting her shiny, pretty thing, and brooding over having been mean to Jeff, being lonely, not having gone clucking about, or making soup for days. Finally, after 3 weeks of doing the same thing, Martha stopped feeling the need to protect her pretty new thing. It was as if her mother had lied. She felt so stupid for having wasted so much time protecting this, whatever it was, and most of all, she felt stupid for having pecked at Jeff. So Martha walked over to Jeff's house to apologize. Jeff was writing, "Martha, I am mad at you for being mean to me," in his journal. But when he looked up and saw Martha at his door, he ran up to her and embraced her before she could even say a word. They were both so happy that they sang and danced and drank hot chocolate without stopping for hours. After they had settled down, Martha explained the story of her shiny new thing. She was sad that her mother had lied to her and was confused about what the shiny new thing was. The dog smiled and said, "I have an app on my phone that can identify things that I take pictures of." They went back to Martha's house. Jeff took out his phone and took a photo of the smooth, shiny new thing. The phone processed the picture for some time. It turned out that the smooth, shiny new thing was a chicken egg. They found out that the egg would turn into a little chicken, and that was how chickens reproduced. This was quite the revelation for the chicken, who up until then had not thought about where she had come from or where she was going. She put her wing to her head and sat down. She asked Jeff, "Is it possible that dogs too come from somewhere and go someplace in the future?" They both agreed that that can't possibly be the case. Dogs are always just there, caught in the immediate present. As Martha was getting dizzy thinking about mortality and rebirth for the first time, Jeff read to her that although chicken laid eggs, under most circumstances, only the eggs that have been inseminated by a rooster, a male chicken, have a chance of turning into little chickens. Martha was most intrigued by this and asked the dog to read her more about roosters. She felt as though making a little chicken was what her mother had wanted her to do. That night, Jeff and Martha did research on roosters and decided that they should go to bed without drinking too much hot chocolate so that the next day they could go out looking for one. The next morning, Martha and Jeff left bright and early to find a rooster. They were about to have an adventure involving different animals and different places. You know, the kind of adventure you would read about in children's books. But Jeff quickly got tired of walking about aimlessly, hoping for something to happen. He pulled out his phone, typed in rooster, and got the exact GPS location of the nearest one. When they found him, the rooster was dancing around a campfire with a strange smoldering stick in his mouth. He had a piece of fabric around his head. Jeff and Martha found this rooster to be very, very kind. He offered them a little bit of everything he had, but he didn't have very much. He had 3 seeds, some bread, and some greens he claims he made the smoldering things out of. The rooster was most insistent in offering them the smoldering thing. The chicken and the dog refused, and Jeff told him about what they were looking for. But the rooster said something about rejecting the patriarchy, the system, and embracing free love that they did not understand at all. When Martha told Jeff that she did not find the lack of financial stability of the rooster attractive, Jeff asked his phone for the next nearest rooster. They thanked the kind rooster for his time and left. When the chicken and the dog approached the GPS location of the new rooster, they saw a big, big house with many chickens in it. They were both very impressed by the size of the house. Martha whispered something to Jeff about financial security that the dog did not understand. At first, they could not see the rooster at all. Martha approached one of the chickens in the house, said hello, and asked what her name was. But the chicken looked away, held her beak up, and did not answer Martha at all. Jeff approached a different chicken and asked where the rooster was. Just then, the rooster appeared and started to approach the chicken and the dog slowly. Jeff did not have a good feeling about this rooster at all and began barking. This embarrassed Marta, who was very impressed with the looks of the rooster and his house. Marta picked at the barking dog, who was cramping her style. This was to no avail, and Jeff kept barking. Finally, Marta grabbed Jeff's phone and threw it to the side so that he would leave her alone with the handsome rooster. All along, the rooster had been approaching the chicken as though he were a model on a runway. His feathers ruffled, his tail and back held up high. He would move his body so that with every step, he would reflect different colors. Marta was so impressed by him that she was about to faint. This was until the rooster opened his mouth and sang, Neither Jeff nor Martha knew what this meant, but deep down inside, they knew that this was bad news. Martha jumped on the back of Jeff, and he ran as fast as he could away from the rooster and his house. They ran and ran and ran. They ran much farther than they actually needed to. Something about running from that rooster felt so primitively right. And they ran so much that they found themselves in a very, very strange place. This place was quite unlike anything they had ever seen. It was loud, gray, and full of rapidly changing colors and shapes. Worst of all, they were picked up by a creature much larger than they.
Like, come here, little dude.
And they quickly got the sense that they had no control over what was happening to them. A sadness came over the chicken and the dog. It wasn't long before they were separated. Jeff quit barking, even though he was given food, water, and toys to play with. The chicken stopped clucking, even though she got everything she wanted, even a handsome rooster. She was put in a chicken coop. Marta even had children, little chicks that she cared for and loved, but deep down inside, she was sad. To make matters worse, she also could not help but think that this sadness was affecting her chicks negatively, and that because of it, they may need therapy when they grow up. Jeff spent most of his days whimpering and tearing things apart, doing all the bad things he had learned. This was until one night, in the middle of winter, he caught a smell he knew very well. It was the smell of hot chocolate. Jeff jumped up and demanded to drink some.
Like, no hot cocoa, that's a bad dog!
But he learned that drinking hot chocolate was also, apparently, only something bad dogs did. He was about to plunge into despair when he remembered what the kind doctor had said about writing things down instead of drinking hot chocolate. Jeff quickly grabbed hold of a piece of paper and a pen, paused, thought, and began writing. This time, instead of writing just one sentence describing his feelings, he wrote his whole story. He described his life with Marta before their adventure. He wrote how the strange pain in Marta's stomach had led them, eventually, to where they are now.
Like zoinks! The dog can write!
The bigger creatures, who had been giving Jeff food and water, were very amazed that he could write and wanted to give him to a research institute for further study. But after reading his story, they decided to return Jeff and Marta to their former homes. They even let Marta keep her chicks. The bigger creatures gave Jeff and Marta some brochures about artificial insemination and told them some strange things about how Jeff could be Marta's rooster. Jeff and Marta did not understand any of that, but they held on to the brochures anyway. Jeff and Marta were so happy to be back in their old home that they spent many, many nights singing, dancing, and drinking hot chocolate.
Jeff.
The chicken spent her days with her chicks, clucking about, gathering seeds, and teaching the chicks how to make soup. Jeff would taunt cats, sniff things, fetch hot chocolate as usual, and most importantly, protect Marta and her chicks from a distance. After the chicks had grown up and Jeff and Marta were bored with being back in their old homes, they decided to look at the brochures about artificial insemination. How Jeff and Marta came to have their very own chicken dog children, part bird, part mammal, is its own story. But that story, like this one, ends with them living happily ever after. Sofa King Entertaining is proud to present Marta and Jeff, the story of a chicken and a dog. Written by Ali Tabibnejad with original music by George Tuxbury. Read for you by Ali Tabibnejad. Recorded and engineered by George Tuxbury at Ragnarok Production Studios, Missoula, Montana.